They nurtured a culture for opposition against moderate Republicans. That is deeply disturbing. And obviously, it isn't a way in creating viability for the future of the Republican Party moving in this direction. You cannot be a majority party and moving regions of the country from representation within the Republican Party. It simply will not work. It can't work.
With us now, chairman of the Republican National Committee, and a man that, hey, listen, I have been behind him from the very beginning.
I know.
We are, yeah, I mean, I'm your #1 supporter. Exactly. But this one's an actual interview. Michael, Steele, thanks for being with us.
It's good to be with you. It really is. It's good to see you. Got me next to my old friend Pat here. I'm loving
this. Pat Buchanan.
I spent a little bit of money to
he was a good man.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, very good.
What a week.
It's been quite a week. This has really been the low point. Well, with respect to going to the Democratic Party, that is a tough question.
I know, that's exactly.
The Democrats are losing some ways themselves.
Right, exactly. Look, I think they're bitten off a little bit more in that bargain than they can chew on right now.
But this is, I was just thinking about this, and Pat said the same thing. This really, the Republican Party is at its lowest point probably since 1965, and this has just strengthened the Democrats even more.
I think there's some truth to that, but I would even say a little bit closer to 76. I mean, you think about the confluence of events that have occurred and the similarities. You know, you had an unpopular war, unpopular president. You had mismanagement, misbehavior in the White House, et cetera, et cetera. You have today an unpopular war, unpopular president. You know, with President Bush at the end of his term, the mismanagement of our leadership in the Congress. I know something that Pat spoke about a lot over the years, and I think those parallels exist at least enough for me to recognize the opportunities that come from that. The chance to clearly define this party in this way. I love it. This is the classic battle that I grew up wanting to be engaged in terms of liberals and conservatives. The battle of ideas, the battle of the direction and the future of a country that is founded on certain principles. And which party is really going to take those principles to the American people and translate
Mr.
it
Chairman,
in terms of
I agree with you. I actually think now, despite what everybody else is saying, now is the perfect time to run if you're conservative. But isn't the problem that the Republicans have so sullied their brand over the past 8 years of recklessness and spending and foreign policy that it's hard to break through? It's hard to say, okay, now that we're the minority, we're going to be conservative.
Well, yeah, it is, and no mistake about that. And it's one of my unique challenges among many that I have to overcome. But consistency and certainly honesty. And look, we can't go back out and start pointing fingers at the Democrats and saying, look how bad they're performing. Look at what they're doing with the economy. When we jump-started this thing, we were the ones that put the $700 billion on the table and say, all right, let's start nationalizing the banking system. Yep. So for now, for us to stand back and go, oh, look, that's a bad thing to do, is disingenuous. So let's own up, do the my bad, and move forward.
All right, the Republican Party is, at the congressional level, is extinct in New England. We don't have a single congressman.
Absolutely.
We've got 3 in New York. We just heard Olympia Snowe said basically, in effect, that it's the conservatives and the brand they put on the party and the identification. That's why there are no congressmen in New England and very, very few senators in these Democratic states. Why do you think the Republican Party is virtually dead at the congressional level?
Well, I think because, and we watched it, and look, this didn't happen in Reagan. Reagan ushered in the era of conservatism. He took the seeds that were sowed in 1960 and 1964, and they blossomed in 1980. And there was this wave that everybody thought it's cool to be a conservative. So what happened by the time we get to 2000, 20 years later? And you watch in 2000, to your point, Pat, there were 16 members of the United States Congress serving from New England. In 2008, there's 0. What happened? Was it conservatism? Was it Reaganism? No. It was poor leadership. It was coming to Washington, drinking the Potomac River water, getting that fever, if you will, and spending, growing government 40%.
You're saying Bush and Cheney are responsible for the wipeout of the party?
I'm not saying Bush and Cheney are responsible for the thing is that Republicans got comfortable and moved away from those core principles. What are the things that picked you off so much during the last 10 or so years? years with the party was its failure to recognize that core value that defined us as Lincoln Republicans. It goes back to talking about individual liberties and freedoms, the responsibilities that we have as a citizen government to make sure that the homelands are protected, our shores are defended, and that there's prosperity for all.
And
we moved away from that.
And I think Pat was very offended by the Republican Party not being restrained in foreign policy, as am I now, and I was concerned about us not being restrained on spending. And let's just say it was everybody. It was Bush. It was
everybody.
It was Congress. Yeah. They all worked together to grow this deficit and debt. Let's talk, though, about really the tough challenge. If you want to talk, can't we admit that this has been a party that's Gingrich, Georgia, Tom DeLay, Texas, George W. Bush, Texas, and there's a great cultural disconnect between the leaders of the GOP over the past 15 years and New England and the Midwest and the Northwest.
Well, I look at it this way. The four of us are, let's say, for the sake of this example, all wearing a hat that says GOP. All right, you're from the West, you're from the Midwest, you're from the South, I'm from the Northeast. You wear your hat one way, you like to wear it, you know, kind of cocked to the left. Yeah, you know, because that's cool out west. Right. In the Midwest, you guys like to wear it a little bit to the right. In the South, you guys wear the brim straight ahead. Now in the Northeast, I wear my hat backwards, you know, because that's how we roll in the Northeast. It's all very. But what do you recognize? We all are wearing the hat that says GOP because that's what we believe. That's who we are. But we wear it differently.
Okay, but let's talk about over the past 15 years, so everybody's been wearing, the leaders have all been wearing the hat straight forward, and they've been
none right now, none. But keep in mind, in the case of Arlen, but keep in mind with the Arlen Specter, and this is what irritates me about that. The party, these conservatives that he's now railing against, saved his behind in 2004. Yeah. You know, George Bush helped him out. Rick Santorum basically took a hit in his race in 06 for endorsing and supporting him in 04.
Did they make a mistake in doing that and cutting Toomey? Did they make a mistake?
I think, you know, hindsight, you could say, yeah, at the time and in the moment, it was about protecting an incumbent Republican running in a very difficult area in a very difficult state. And I understand that at the time, but then don't turn back on me 6 years later when you cast a vote against core principles and voting for the stimulus, when the House is given a goose egg. You know, so don't come and blame us now. You're the one who's trying to survive in this thing. This is his little survivor moment.
Let's talk about social issues. Pat and I have a disagreement on this. I'm a social conservative. I voted with the NRA, the pro-life groups, and of course Pat is also very conservative socially. But my message moving forward is that the Republican Party just can't fight those battles in Washington. We have to fight them on the state level and the local level, because the same party that doesn't want to nationalize banks and doesn't want to nationalize Detroit and doesn't want to nationalize the financial system and the healthcare system shouldn't then turn around and say, well, let's nationalize the ban of gay marriage and let's nationalize OBGYN issues. There's not a consistency there. That is not being conservative constitutional.
Well, I think I tend to be much more of a constitutionalist in that regard. So, you know, I don't like the idea of mucking around with the Constitution, because I think it's a way to open up the door for the left to then get in and do what they really want to do. So I don't want to afford that opportunity. I believe a great deal of this activity has occurred and should occur at the state. The party right now has, I think, one opportunity, and one real one, that they've got to take advantage of. Go out there and clearly define what we believe in and do it in neighborhoods and communities across the country.
All right, Chairman Steele.